Welcome to another episode of Mindful Molly with me, Molly Kaluva, a space that challenges self-growth, awareness, and acceptance in the most mindful way possible. I just want to thank each and every one of you guys for taking the time to support this podcast, showing it love, sharing it with people, giving me feedback. I truly appreciate each and every one of you guys. The purpose of this podcast is really to incite growth, to be able to open your eyes to concepts you may have not been aware of, to discuss topics that are very much relevant to your personal growth and development, and just create a safe space for anybody and everybody, regardless of how you are, where you're from, what you do, to get some of the answers they may have been looking for internally. I am just a mirror of you. I am just speaking, what may resonate with you and what may not resonate with you, and just hoping that you guys are able to take from that and grow on a regular basis. So episodes will be dropped every Friday 10 p.m. Kenyan time and on Saturday 4 p.m. Kenyan time. But with that being said, let us get into today's affirmations and the rest of the episode. So today we're talking about the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. I know it's a mouthful, but it's only right as usual that the affirmations align with that. So one of today's affirmations is energy flows to and through me. The other affirmation will be I am the creator of my reality. And with that being said, don't want to keep, too many affirmations for today, but if you have any others in mind, say them to yourselves, affirm yourself. This is a practice that will help you truly embody and understand yourself a lot better. But that being said, let's get into today's episodes and talk about it. So today we are talking about the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. I know when people see this episode or the name, y'all probably might be intimidated. It is a bit of a mouthful. It does look a bit complicated, but I'm here to break it down for you guys, give you guys a better understanding of it, and also just give you guys some ideas of the ways in which you can actually use this law to better your life, to better yourself, and just to get a deeper understanding. Now, the reason why this season is primarily dedicated to the 12 laws of the universe is because it is important to understand why certain things happen. Now, these are laws that guide science, they guide spirituality, they guide several aspects of life. It is literally about how when you look at them and really apply them to your own life, you realize that what happens in life is not really just by chance. It's as a result of these laws and how they're put together and how they actually play out in your life. And that's why it's important to understand these laws, because it makes it easier to understand stuff like manifestation, gratitude, why does it work? All these different questions that people tend to have about spirituality is basically handled by understanding the laws of the universe. Because sometimes when you try to understand just like the surface value of things, you will never truly understand it. You need to understand the basis of it. Like, where did it come from? What is it as a result of? Like, what actually leads and causes it? But yeah, like I said, we're talking about the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. So what does it mean? First of all, perpetual means never ending. Transmutation means changing state, which is basically meaning that energy is constantly just changing state. It's constantly going from one thing to another. It is moving on a regular basis. Energy isn't still, and we talked about this on the episode about the law of vibration as well. So we have energy constantly flowing to and through us. We are literally conduits, or we channel energy, if for lack of better words, basically. And as a result, we're also able to change its state. We actually have the ability to change its state and create things. Now, just to give you an example of it is, thoughts are a form of energy. That is thought energy. And what happens with thought energy is, you think of something, and, you think of something, it's a thought, and then you're able to transmute that energy or change it from just a thought to actually something in the physical. An example of that is, let's say, whatever you're listening to this podcast on. There's somebody that thought about it. They took the time, they thought about it, they created this idea in their head. That was the first form of creation. They took this energy that was around them and were able to channel it and create something, a thought out of it. Now, this thought actually was able to manifest itself and be transmuted into a physical object. Physical object that was then transmuted into the working process and everything and the creation and, until you got whatever device it is you're listening to right now. So I know a lot of times, and the reason I like to give these raw and real examples is because sometimes when we think about spirituality, when we think about, some of these laws of the universe and stuff like that, sometimes people like to think about them as something that has to be out of this world, in the sense that whatever it creates or whatever it results in has to be something like crazy, something wow, you get what I'm saying? But it's even the simple things in life. It's some of the ideas that you made, like this podcast. This podcast, was as a result of the perpetual transmutation of energy. I was able to transmute a thought into actually creating this podcast in the physical or the non-physical, however you want to describe it. And that is just, kind of how it works. So like I said, everything we kind of like interact with, whether it's like bottles of water or something, I don't know, somebody thought of it or somebody created it, or it was a result of transmuted energy. Another example, and we see this in nature, because everything we talk about is not just literally our own world in terms of like our gadgets and all the extra stuff. It also is seen, in the natural world within nature. And some of that is like when you think about stuff like water, evaporates, condenses, not to make this like a science class or anything, but, stuff like that. Or like a tree, the seed falls, the tree is planted. After the tree is planted, like, it dies, goes back into the earth, and it has its cycle. It's never-ending cycle. And that's why I also say that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It just continues in these cycles that constantly happen on a regular basis. They happen every minute, every second, every, nanosecond, whatever you want to call it. And from this, you're actually able to create. Now, we do this on a daily basis in terms of transmuting energy. And now the question is actually like, how are you transmuting this energy? Like, what are you changing this energy into? What are you creating it into? And the reason it's important to understand this is because, like I say, you have to be cautious about things like how you think, the words you say, what you feel inside of you. Really reflecting and understanding and creating that self-awareness to understand yourself a lot better, because you don't realize that some of the things you're holding within you, some of the things you're constantly thinking about on a regular basis, these are things that now can transmute into the physical. So when you're thinking about the lack of things, and this is why I say think not of the lack, but the abundance of things. Understand that whatever you want is already in the physical. It's nothing new. It's nothing that's going to come from somewhere and be created out of nothing. Like, it already exists. Why? Because energy cannot be created or destroyed, meaning it is already there. It is just something that has not played out in the physical yet. And this is important because, like I said, you want to think about stuff like lack of things, lack of this, lack of that. What actually creates in the physical is the lack of things. So now you start to realize that you're constantly lacking things. And again, I'm not forcing anybody to believe anything I say. If you don't, you don't. If you do, you do. It's really up to you. I'm just sharing what I have learned, what I have also experienced in some ways, and also from the experiences of others. But, you continue to think about the lack of things. You continue to think about what you don't have and stuff like that. And those start to play out. You think of fear, fearful situations start to manifest themselves. It becomes your physical state. It becomes something that is there in the physical now. You think about debt. All these different things that you constantly start to think about over and over and over again. That's what plays out. Now, the reason I say this is because a lot of the time we like to think about, good example, stuff like heartbreak. How we actually mess up a lot of the situations we're in, whether it's about a friendship, platonic relationships or, romantic relationships, is that you're constantly thinking about, getting your feelings hurt or the end of it. And that energy actually transmutes itself into the end of whatever situation you're in. So that's why you're always taught, like, stop thinking about the negatives. Stop thinking about the negatives. And it's not a corny thing to say. It's just the truth of things. The more you dwell on the negatives, the more negative is, created in the physical, simply because you're transmuting energy. It's our superpower, but it's also the reason, like, you could, fail or not do too good in life. And it's kind of like, I don't know if you guys have seen those type of movies where it's like you got the superhero with the superpower and doesn't know how to handle it yet. I don't know if you guys watch like The Flash. I didn't watch it too much, but at first you don't even know how to control yourself. You don't know how to control your powers. You're still figuring it out. That is basically us as human beings a lot of the time. We don't really know how to manage the type of control and influence we have in our lives. And unknowingly, also because we're not aware of it, we do certain things. And it starts to affect us negatively and we don't notice it. Now it's all about unlearning certain things that you were doing before and learning the better habits to create the right type of thought patterns to make sure you're improving your life on a regular basis. And that includes creating better thought patterns. So now when you start to dwell on the more positive things in life, you're able to create better things in your life, because now that energy is transmuted and it plays out well. That's why sometimes you have to be in that state of already being happy, already being fulfilled, already being welcoming to whatever it is that is going to enter your life for it to play out. You have to be there in the non-physical before you're there in the physical. It's all a matter of like the word faith. You have to believe in something that you cannot even see yet. If you want to start a business, and I've given this example before, you're not going to start a business that you don't believe in. Because if you don't believe in, you've already set yourself up for failure, or you wouldn't even start in the first place. You want to be in a position where you actually believe that you're going to achieve whatever it is you said you're going to achieve and go out and be able to do it. And the reason why a lot of people are successful is because right from the beginning and throughout, they believe that whatever they are doing and what they've set out to do is 100% going to work out. And that's an important part when it comes to actually transmuting energy. But that's more in the sense of like transmuting stuff like thoughts. Now I'm about to talk about the wow stuff, the amazing and crazy stuff. Now, when you think about the law of perpetual transmutation and being able to transmute energy or change its form, is a lot of people like to use other forms of strong and powerful energy to, create and do things better. For example, if you're a creative, you may have heard, or an entrepreneur, but I know for me as an artist, it is something I have found out about, and I was like, oh my days, that is actually pretty mind-blowing. And one of them is like, sexual transmutation. That's being able to transmute sexual energy and be able to take that, because it is actually one of the most powerful forms and strongest forms, sexual attraction, sexual feelings, all that stuff, and be able to transmute it into your craft and create this creative energy, especially for people who are creative and stuff like that. And how that could actually play out is if you have a big piece, or you have a painting that you want to create, or you have something that you want to do that really includes your creative juices. And that's why I said entrepreneurs as well. If you have this business idea that you want in your life and you're trying to like put it together and really think about it, one of the ways and one of the methods I know a lot of entrepreneurs and artists use is actually abstinence and celibacy. And that's simply because you are no longer tapping into your sexual energy in the form of actual, sexual gratification, but now you're taking that energy and you're able to transmute it in a different way. And by that, I mean you're able to take that energy and put it and create something different, create something new, that is not necessarily in the form of sexual gratification. And that's why a lot of the time, some of you, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but a lot of the time, like when you have a new idea or you've been able to create or think of something new, a lot of the time you do actually have that sense of arousal. You actually get excited. You actually get super like, wow. And that is because of that law of perpetual transmutation and the fact that you're able to transmute that type of energy. And that's why it is one of the stronger forms of energy that people transmute to create new things. But like I said, the importance of this is just truly to understand the type of influence you have in yourself and your ability to create. Like, I like to think about it as our secret superpower, because with this, you could possibly create whatever it is you would want to create. It's all about being able to create. I've said create a whole lot of times, but be able to start thinking the right type of way, so that you're not creating negative things in your life, but you're able to create more positive things in your life. And the reason why I talk about, these laws as well, and I mentioned it earlier, is because even if you want to look at it in the physical world, for people who, rely a lot more on hardcore proof, energy is never changed. It's something you learned when you were, in science. You always learned about how, a liquid to turn into a solid, could turn into a gas, could turn into whatever. And that's just how energy is as well. So you just need to understand that you actually have the ability to channel and take this energy and make things out of it. But that being said, that is the end of today's episode. I just want to say a big thank you to each and every one of you guys for your continued support, and I can't wait for the new season that is coming after we wrap this one up, that will literally be giving you guys the opportunity to just, hear about something different. We'll be done with the 12 laws of the universe and just getting into, some real raw stuff and keeping it 100% with you guys. The next season, hopefully, I would love to include some guests. So if you're somebody who has any concepts, any ideas, or something you'd love to discuss with me on the podcast, feel free to reach out with me. But with that being said, be kind, be blessed, be grateful, be compassionate, and most of all, take care.